Elon Musk plans the first Starship missions to Mars by 2026, followed by manned missions in 2029 and 2031. Collective humanity is in the midst of a metamorphosis and struggling to understand what's happening. US military lacks the capacity to track, identify, and/or take down low-altitude drones flying over bases. Exciting new discoveries of what lies beneath the Giza Plateau and how these support claims that the pyramids were used as power plants, weapons platforms, energy conductors, etc. David Grusch accepts a position in the office of Representative Eric Burleson. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the March 22nd edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. First of all, I just want to give you a quick health update. I'm over the pneumonia and some other kind of serious infections I got, but I still am recovering from a bit of a cough. So occasionally you'll hear me coughing. That is something that I've been told will just work its way out of the system. So it's not indicative of me still suffering from pneumonia or any of those things. So yeah, if you just bear with me, have some patience, appreciate that. So let's start with the Elon Musk plans to fly his first Starship missions to Mars by 2026, followed by manned missions in 2029 and 2031. So the big assumption here is that reusable rockets will be the mainstay of humanity becoming an interplanetary society. I mean, that's what Musk is planning for, and that's what he's assuming, and it's a fair assumption to make looking at the rocket industry today. By the end of this decade, however, many far more sophisticated and exotic propulsion systems will be known thanks to the secret space program disclosures, which are happening now. So I think that even though the first Starliner missions to Mars may begin in 2026 using these reusable rockets, I expect that as we get to 2030, there'll be more exotic propulsion systems that will be used for establishing Mars colonies. Here's a article or a video by Paul Wallis. Now, Paul Wallis, he's written a number of best-selling books that he's called the Eden series. And he brings up some important facts about horticulture and the contribution of the Anunnaki in developing this science for feeding large ancient civilizations after the devastating cataclysms. So the smoking gun. So in this video, which runs for just under 40 minutes, he discusses horticulture. He discusses the pollination process and how there is a way to pollinate crops just using straight human intervention. But that is a highly developed skill. And he says that when you look at ancient texts and records, that this was happening in Sumeria and that this is the Anunnaki were doing this. So I thought that was very significant that the Anunnaki came to Earth and helped with the development of modern horticulture in that time because there was a need for being able to pollinate plants and so forth for use as crops. So a fascinating video, well worth watching. Now, Jason Wild, he puts out some very insightful Twitter posts, and here he describes that humanity is in the cocoon and it's about to get ugly. Look around. Doesn't it feel like everything is collapsing? Like we're all slugging through some miserable slow motion breakdown, dragging our heavy bloated past behind us, waiting for something to give? We're in our ugly stage, like a caterpillar, swollen and desperate, crawling through the dirt, consuming everything in sight, thinking that this is all there is. And then just when it thinks it's over, just when it climbs into position, spins itself into an airtight cocoon and prepares to die, something else happens. So, yeah, the metamorphosis process involving a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, I think is a very appropriate metaphor for where we are right now as a collective civilization. Right now, things are pretty tough, pretty ugly. It's not just me going through some personal health issues. I know there's a lot of people going through personal health issues, people having all sorts of emotional, financial issues. People are really struggling. I get it. I see it. I can feel that. And one of the things that I think that is a characteristic of this age we're living in is that this seems to be part of the unfolding process. This seems to be part of evolving from a 3D society into a 5D society. So I think Jason Wild is spot on with his views about collective humanity being in the midst of a metamorphosis and struggling to understand what's going on. Okay, so this was my tweet, my response to a number of top military leaders. We're talking 4-star generals heading NORAD, Northern Command, describing the lack of the US military to track, identify, and or take down low-altitude drones flying over bases. The drone swarms over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia and other sensitive military sites exposed this weakness. Yet there was no sense of urgency among top military leaders. Again, this suggests that the drone UFO swarms were not the threat many speculated about. Drone swarms inside the US could be spying. Okay, so this is the 60 Minutes. This is the 60 Minutes episode where you have an in-depth investigation into the drone phenomenon, especially as it involves the US military and bases being swarmed. And it's all pitched at the idea that these drones are like doing all these kind of like surveillance type things, and yet the military leaders acknowledge that they don't have the capacity to track and monitor and or take down these low-flying drones over military bases, and that's very odd. I mean, I didn't know that was something that the military struggled with. Now, as for the drones themselves and the military not having any urgency, I think on the one hand you had people wanting to portray the drones as this drastic national security threat, build up the fear factor, get people really worried about them and so forth. And the other was that, okay, there's no biggie here, nothing bad is going on. And I suspect that what's happening, or what happened, and I've covered this previously, is that these drones happened when many UFOs from visiting civilizations, non-human intelligence, began to fly over our skies. And so to cover this up and distract people, the corporations associated with the deep state release these swarms of drones and use their media assets to focus everything on the drones and just get the people, ignoring the UFOs. And I think that's what happened. And the military, they, at a strategic level, they understood what was going on. And so they just took the position that these drones, they're flying over our bases, they're flying at a low altitude, we can't really do anything about it, but we're not too worried about it either. So this is what I think was going on with the drone phenomenon. So here's the latest update from JP, update number 44. And this update was significant because he's been talking to some friends who served with him in the army, and they say that they saw the TR-3Bs that JP saw. So you have independent corroboration of what JP saw at the military base where he was serving. Now, importantly, what JP has also done in this update and confirmed publicly for the first time is that he was based at Eglin Air Force Base. So even though he was in the US Army, he was based there at Eglin. And this is where the majority of the incidents happened that are described in books 1 to 3 in the US Army Insider Missions series. And it's also the same base that JP took my wife and myself for a tour back around 2022, as I recall. So, yeah, it's Eglin is a huge base. And so now you have an idea. If you read about those earlier updates, it'll make sense now what base he was talking about that was so large, because Eglin is a very, very large base. I think it stretches 50 miles in length in terms of its widest extent. So yeah, definitely an important base. Okay, so President Trump released or committed to releasing the JFK assassination files. So let's hear his announcement that he made.
But while we're here, I thought it would be appropriate. We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this. And I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact. But we're going to be releasing the JFK files, and that would be tomorrow. Do you have anything else to add to that, Carolyn? So that's a big announcement. They've been waiting for that for decades. Then I said during the campaign I'd do it, and I'm a man of my word. So tomorrow you have the JFK files. What time will they be released?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon, okay.
Have you seen what's in the files? Have you read them?
I've heard about them.
Was there,
Anything interesting?
It's going to be very interesting.
was there an executive summary supplied to you, Mr. President?
No, I'm not doing summaries. You'll write your own summaries. It's many pages. Is it 80,000 pages? Approximately 80,000 pages. So it's a lot of stuff. And you'll make your own determination.
So that did happen. Trump did arrange for the release of all the JFK files, that they were released, largely unredacted. Now, because they're 80,000 pages, it's going to take a long time for researchers to go through and find the nuggets what are the nuggets that are in there, and whether or not it's sufficient to prove or sufficient to confirm that the CIA was involved in the Kennedy assassination, as many people, including myself, believe, and whether there is a UFO connection to Kennedy's assassination, which many people, including myself, believe to be the case. So it will be a process, and hopefully in the months ahead, as more and more people scour those 80,000 pages, they'll find some nuggets that cast light on all of these topics. Okay, so here's a fascinating article on humans developing psychic abilities such as mind reading, but the brain largely turns this ability off for most of the population. So that's a very interesting article that was discussed in this Daily Mail story, and that we all have these telepathic abilities, these psychic abilities, but the brain turns them off. Something is happening within the brain to turn off those abilities. So, fascinating explanation of this phenomenon. Definitely an article worth reading just to better understand this area of psi and, what our true abilities are. Okay, so here's another story from Jason Wild that I thought was well worth discussing, and he's talking about exclusivity in religion. And of course, many people assume or make the case that Christ is the way, or Islam is the way, or Dharma is the way. And according to Jason Wild, and I think many would agree with him, that these are different ways of being able to reach a similar destination, which is, whatever you want to call it, God realization, kind of like being at one with the universe, being a loving being heart-focused. I mean, whatever it is that is your goal, I mean, there's many paths that allow one to get there. And I think that this is a nice reminder that, as we now head towards this kind of like post-contact world, because it is going to happen at some point, open contact will happen, ETs will reveal themselves, and I think that really requires us to move out of these exclusive religious traditions and kind of like embrace more of this kind of like multiverse, or multiple religions take us to the same location, and understand the differences between how one group does it and how another group or civilization does it. So, if we're talking about different extraterrestrial civilizations, I mean, they're going to have their own unique way of being able to achieve these things. So I think this is a nice reminder that we need to transcend exclusivity and just embrace the idea that there are multiple paths to the final destination of whatever you want to call it, reconciliation with God, achieving the Godhead, having a loving heart, whatever your goal is. There are multiple ways to do that. Okay, so this is a old video concerning Major Donald Keyhoe, who played a critical role in the development of ufology in the 1950s. And, I've always been, on the one hand, an admirer of Donald Keyhoe, because he was the first to expose a systematic flying saucer conspiracy, and that there was he called it a silence group. We call it Majestic 12, who was keeping all of this secret. So he did this in many of his interviews, evidence he accumulated, and the books that he wrote based on all this evidence that he acquired from military pilots that all stressed that the flying saucer phenomenon was very real, and that there was a high-level cover-up going on. So far, all is good. Now, as far as major contactees of the era, this is where I part company with Donald Keyhoe, because he was very dismissive and believed that the major contactees in his era, people like George Adamski, Howard Menger, Orfeo Angelucci, and many others, George Van Tassel, that these were hoaxes and liars. So the implication is that as long as you describe seeing flying saucers from a distance, then you're given the benefit of a doubt of being a truth teller. So if you're a pilot, you say, oh yeah, I saw a flying saucer. It looked like this. It was so far away. It was so big, and it zipped along, and its approximate speed was this and that. Then you're taken seriously. But if you happen to experience that flying saucer landing, that the occupants come out and introduce themselves to you, and even take you into the ship, or even take you for a ride, then you're automatically called a hoaxer and a liar. Now, to me, that's a very illogical approach to take, to acknowledge the existence of flying saucers and the cover-up, but yet say that no, there's no credible evidence that these ever land and pick up people. To me, that's illogical. But yet, that was Donald Keyhoe, and that is something that continues into the modern era. You have many leading UFO researchers that will spend a lot of time on the phenomenal aspects of UFOs, how fast they're traveling and how large they are, and the photographic and radar evidence for them. But yet, if that same flying saucer lands and the occupants get out and ask you or begin talking to you, then you're dismissed as a kook. I mean, that continues to the modern day. And that is very unfortunate. And Donald Keyhoe was one of the major figures that was associated with establishing that kind of, I think, very contradictory, illogical approach. Okay, so here is a pretty exciting discovery. What's been found using, I guess, radar penetrating technology is that there is a huge underground complex supporting underneath the pyramids, and that the kind of like structures and their configuration and so forth does support claims that have been made by many researchers, beginning with Nikola Tesla, that the pyramids were in fact power plants or weapons platforms or energy conductors. And so I think that this discovery really does take us a step closer to understanding exactly what the pyramids were truly used for, that they were not used as tombs for pharaohs, but that they were in fact ancient energy conductors, even weapons platforms used in the Atlantean era and beforehand. So here's a nice illustration of how it would look. And as you can see, this has all the ingredients of some kind of vast energy project designed to collect and harness huge amounts of energy which can be used, whether for storage, whether as kind of like wireless electricity, or even a weapons platform, as some scholars have speculated. So this is truly an exciting discovery, and I expect we'll hear more of it in the months ahead. Here is a Q&A I did with George Cavazzalis and Alex Collier and JP that was recorded in September of 2024. I want to thank Jazz Marlin and Angelica for getting these Q&As out there while I was incapacitated in the hospital. So this is an opportunity for you to just listen to these Q&As with some leading figures in the contactee movement. All of them, George Cavazzalis, Alex Collier, and JP, are contactees with decades of experience. Here is a kind of pretty exciting development, really. This is the appointment of David Grusch as a senior advisor to Representative Eric Burleson, and that he'll be mostly advising on UFO related issues, and that'll be a temporary 4-month post. So this is exciting because it means that members of Congress are starting to equip themselves with personnel who truly understand the mechanics of how the secrecy system works. And I think that Grusch, given his expertise, his knowledge of the secrecy system surrounding the UFO issue, I think he's going to play a big role in educating the US Congress in identifying what exactly they should be looking at when they put their attention on this UFO issue. So very interesting to see how this unfolds with David Grusch. Okay, and finally I want to announce that the April 5 webinar, Dilemma of a Star Trek Future, that is going ahead as scheduled on April 5. I will start off with a presentation, and that will be followed by a panel with George Cavazzalis and Sarah Bressman, both of whom have decades of experience concerning extraterrestrial contact, or having counseled people or given QHHT sessions to people with these experiences. So this will be a very exciting webinar for us to contemplate. So that'll be on April 5. You can register. So in 2 weeks, I hope to see you there. Well, I want to thank you, and again, apologize for the difficult voice delivery for today, but I think I finally got through it all, and it should be better next week. So I look forward to seeing you again in another week, and thank you and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.
The launch of the Star Trek TV series in 1966 was no accident. Its creator, Gene Roddenberry, received informal briefings from naval intelligence operatives about a future U.S. secret space program. The opening to the iconic series presented the public with the idea of a quest.
Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
These principles seeded the desirability and support of us striving for an actual Star Trek future. The different types of extraterrestrials appearing in the Star Trek TV series, with their respective histories, threats, and opportunities for a spacefaring humanity, was no accident. Star Trek's fictional universe of extraterrestrials mirrored real-life alien civilizations that humanity was destined to encounter. The most pressing threat in the show came from the Klingon Empire, a representation of the real-life Draco-Reptilian Empire, whose galactic-wide aggression make them a menace to peace and freedom-loving extraterrestrials all over the galaxy. According to former U.S. Navy intelligence operative William Tompkins, human-looking ETs called the Nordics need allies in a galactic-wide conflict with the Draco-Reptilians. The Galactic Federation of Worlds and other ETs want us to join this galactic war as allies and have been secretly grooming us for this role since the 1950s. Thus, the Star Trek series was a critical form of recruitment propaganda to sway the people of Earth to their cause. The U.S. Navy's Solar Warden program has become the tip of the spear in this evolving human extraterrestrial alliance to push back the Draco Empire in our solar system and beyond. Will global humanity benefit from participating in a galactic-wide conflict against the Dracos? Is there another pathway that better preserves human sovereignty while not remaining passive against the Draco-Reptilians' aggression? Or is there a far greater destiny awaiting the Earth and humanity that is now being revealed, which will amaze even many of our ET allies? What if our Star Trek future is only a necessary stepping stone to something entirely new? Join Dr. Michael Salla and special guests George Kavasalis and Sarah Breskman-Cosme in an all-new 5-hour webinar entitled Dilemma of a Star Trek Future and Challenge to Human Sovereignty, which will present all the burning issues and address the profound questions posed by humanity stepping into its designated role in a Star Trek future and beyond. Don't wait. Register now at exopolitics.org.